We are Greater Manchester and District CND, and we're marking a day of protest against the AUKUS Pact. My name is Pam Flynn, and I'm the chair of GMCND, and I would like to introduce Ray Street, who is a member of CND National Council, and Jackie Burke, who is a long-standing worker with CND, and Sheila Townsend, who is another member of our coordination group. We're here this morning, as I just mentioned, to draw attention to our opposition to the AUKUS Pact, which threatens a new Cold War against China and is in breach of the Non-Proliferation Treaty. I'm going to say a few words, and then I'm going to introduce Ray Street from National Council, who will also say a few words. Then we have some a visual representation of our opposition, and then we will finish. Before I go any further, I want to acknowledge the support of Unite the Union community branch here in Manchester. At this moment, all being well, they are in the city centre and they are petitioning against the AUKUS Pact and drawing attention of the public to the AUKUS Pact. I need to put my glasses on. So when our Prime Minister, Boris Johnson, announced that Britain was joining a new military pact with the United States and Australia back in September of this year, it came as a bit of a shock. But in many ways, within CND, we should have expected it. The Tories had increased defence spending by 26%. The cap on nuclear warheads was lifted by 40%, which violates the Non-Proliferation Treaty. Then we had seen the Integrated Defence Review with its Indo-Pacific tilt and the dispatch of our new Queen Elizabeth aircraft carrier to the South China Sea. This was the biggest mobilisation of British forces since the Falklands War, and the aircraft carrier took part in months of military exercises with other navies from India, Japan, Australia, and the United States. Now, AUKUS really exposes the Tories' global Britain as a militarist venture. So, what is AUKUS? It's billed as a landmark defence and security partnership. It aims to cover artificial intelligence, quantum computing, cyber, as well as nuclear capabilities, and it seeks to integrate science, technology, industry, and supply chains into a whole defence system. At its heart is the United States-UK commitment to provide Australia with nuclear-powered submarines. These involve the sharing of weapons-grade uranium. This is the violation of the Non-Proliferation Treaty, which stipulates the use of nuclear technology for peaceful purposes. This then threatens to set a precedent for nuclear proliferation, with Japan, South Korea, and India also seeking their own nuclear-powered submarine fleets. All this is a short step from actually acquiring nuclear weapons. Why did Australia ditch the deal for the French diesel-powered submarines? Nuclear-powered submarines can stay submerged longer so that they have a hunter-killer capacity, and this enables Australia to extend its military reach right into the Northeast Asia to counter China. So, whilst the deal does not name China, it's clearly directed at China. In order to understand why this might be, we need to have a look at the Indo-Pacific region. Now, not only China and North Korea, but other countries in the region, Indonesia and Malaysia, are expressing concern over destabilization and the dangers of a regional arms race. AUKUS rides roughshod over the 1984 agreement to keep the South Pacific nuclear free, and in fact embeds nuclear technology in the region that has suffered most from nuclear issues. Unless we forget, the United States and the UK together carried out over 100 nuclear tests in the Pacific in the late 1940s and 1950s. New Zealand, with its non-nuclear policy, has said that the submarines will not be welcome, whilst the former Australian Prime Minister, Paul Keating, sees it compromising his nation's sovereignty. Meanwhile, the head of the United Nations Weapons Inspectorate, as well as the United Nations General Assembly, have also expressed their concerns. To think about the United States for a moment, in East Asia, the Association of Southeast Asian States, which has been at the heart of regional security dialogue for decades, is now seemingly to be supplanted by a new, externally imposed, Anglosphere-led military corps. The United States peace activist Joseph Gerson describes AUKUS as the moment the United States pivoted from Europe and the Middle East to Asia. The pivot started under Obama back in 2011, moving the bulk of US naval forces to back up the 100,000 United States troops and 400 or so United States bases which surround China. Under Biden, there's now almost twice daily surveillance of the Chinese coast. The so-called freedom of navigation exercises have morphed into massive military exercises. Several times, United States warships and one UK one have sailed through the Taiwan Straits, which has now become, along with the South China Sea, a major flashpoint for military confrontation. These waters are stiff with both military and civilian vessels, and the risk of miscalculation escalating very rapidly into war between two nuclear-armed states. That risk is running very high. The United States' concern is to maintain its preeminence over the Pacific, increasingly relying on military strength to break down China's defenses. It has long aspired to build a nation NATO, and Biden is now drawing allies into exclusionary groups like the Quad, the four-member security partnership of the United States, Australia, Japan, and India, as well as the AUKUS, dividing the region and the world. AUKUS ties us closer to the United States and its increasingly erratic foreign policy, driven more and more by the war profiteering of the military-industrial complex, which is always hungry for more opportunities. And obviously, following the withdrawal from Afghanistan, it's looking for new places to wield its might. East Asia will likely make up 40% of the world economy by 2030, and AUKUS is the means for the United States and the UK to snaffle a share of the profits. Companies like Lockheed Martin and Raytheon are all over the region, not only selling but also investing in military production projects. So now we just think a moment about the UK. BAE Systems is the same. Our own aircraft carrier, which I mentioned earlier, is touting around the region for business. Johnson is selling AUKUS as a job creation scheme, more jobs at Barrow, more at Rolls-Royce in the Midlands. But are jobs in proliferating nuclear technology really what we want? This is clearly all going in the wrong direction. Look at the United States defense budget. At nearly $800 billion per year, it is 3 or 4 times the size of Biden's Build Back Better budgets. And here in Britain, scientists for global responsibility reckon over the next 4 years, we will spend 190 billion on the military as compared with 25 billion on reducing carbon emissions. Johnson's militarism is sucking our country's talent, expertise, and resources into creating ever more lethal ways of killing people, instead of tackling new viruses and the climate catastrophe. So we can see how AUKUS is aggravating international relations, creating new divisions at precisely the time when the climate emergency demands global cooperation. The AUKUS trio are deeply implicated in the past years of failed wars. Biden and Johnson have turned their back on the mess they've left in Afghanistan, and they've failed to learn the lessons that military solutions get us absolutely nowhere. We haven't got the details of the pact yet. They're going to be worked up over the next year or so. And CND, with its allies, the Stop the War campaign, are working together to build up a mass campaign, which is why we're here today. It's worth remembering that at the party conference, the Labour Party conference in September, Labour CND's emergency resolution opposing AUKUS was passed by just over 70%, thanks to support from the trade union vote. However, we do have a piece of work to do with the leadership of the Labour Party. Rumour has it that AUKUS may solidify into a treaty. If we don't stop this now, then what? We may well find ourselves involved in even more serious provocations. It's worth mentioning that China yesterday announced that it was going to move some of its own defensive surveillance onto the Atlantic coast through an arrangement with Guinea in Africa. So I think it was Guinea. So it's important that we maintain our vigilance and that we keep saying no and draw attention to this not very well understood pact. So I'd like to bring in now Ray Street, who is a member of CND National Council.
Thank you, Pam, and good morning, everybody. About AUKUS, I think we have to remember first and foremost that this is a military alliance aimed at China and is further provocation. I am no apologist for the Chinese regime, but I believe it is very, very unwise to be escalating tension in the region. You know, you need to look at it a different way. Think of the USA's vast, as Jenny referred to, military budget. Nearly this year, it's difficult to grasp the number, $800 billion. Think of it when people in the world are starving, $1 billion. But you see, if you have that vast military budget, you need an enemy to justify it. And so therefore, you can see why voices in the corporations in the US are talking up an enemy of China and even Russia. Furthermore, the Australian-UK-US nuclear deal exposes civilian nuclear and military links. Under the agreement, the USA and the UK plan to transfer nuclear submarine technologies to Australia. There are concerns about the fissile materials, as Jenny has said, the uranium, increased nuclear risks in the Pacific, and a potential acceleration of an arms race in the region. In states, this is important, such as the USA, the UK and France, shared military nuclear industrial bases are largely, albeit indirectly, funded by electricity consumers. Colossal investments in new nuclear power are underwritten by anticipated revenues from future electricity sales. That's all of us. These investments flow through nuclear supply chains to support military nuclear activities. In this way, crucial support is given to military infrastructures outside of defence budgets and off the public books. But as nuclear power declines, this massive hidden funding flow may diminish. The AUKUS agreement makes more sense when you view it in the light of this crisis in the US, UK, and France national nuclear submarine industries. Spiraling civil nuclear construction delays, technological failure, and vast cost have little effect on the government commitments to civil nuclear power, given pressure to underpin military capability. And it is why policymakers are neglecting renewables and storage options that are now outcompeting nuclear power. And that is certainly true in the UK. The government and the policymakers are talking of nuclear energy again and again and again, but they don't let everybody know the hidden agenda behind it. AUKUS is to spreading nuclear technology when the USA, the UK collaborating with Australia to provide the latter with nuclear-powered submarines. This, of course, as Jenny has said, risks nuclear proliferation and, last but not least, is a breach of the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, to which the UK is a signatory. It is very dangerous, this alliance, and we need to keep up our position and let people know the true facts behind this military alliance. And it is not to defend us, it is not to get a more peaceful Pacific region, as I was told recently. It is just the opposite. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ray. Thank you very much indeed. Just in order to mark this protest, I would like us now, if we have got them, to hold up our protest placards and to wish anybody who is watching this on the internet a peaceful end to the year, and absolutely no to a new AUKUS pact. Thank you very much.